It's always trippy when you share the thing that's sharing the thing. All right, let me do one other thing here. Here it is. Wait, no, that's not it. This is what I want to do. Okay, so that'll resolve the link so folks can get in. All right, let's keep going here. So what we're going to talk about tonight, I have two topics that I figure would be good. And the modular automations, I mean, I don't know how you do it. The way I do it is I think repeating yourself is the worst thing in the world. Like anytime you have to do anything more than once, it should be its own automation that you invoke from there. So in terms of why we should even care about this, I mean, here's all the reasons that I came up with. There's a principle called DRY. What's up, Jonathan? Do not repeat yourself, basically. And this is just like a good thing to live by in general, but specifically in AC land, do not repeat yourself. If you're going to use it any more than one place, and you'll attest to this, with hard stuff, it should just be its own thing. You should invoke it rather than make a call to the email in the automation. You should invoke something else and have it sit in its own automation. So reusable objects, this turns into just less work. Oh, sounds like we got someone joining us. We can mute the mic here. Yeah, if you can mute your mic, thank you. Okay, so reusable objects, less work in the end. Even though it may be slightly more work to set up initially, it's going to translate to less work overall. You're gonna end up with like building blocks, basically, and then just fewer errors. In the end of the day, it's like less stuff to troubleshoot. You know that, hey, if this email was sent, it came from exactly one place, and it's not like I have to go 5 places to figure out what's wrong with it. And then automations that can invoke other automations, it's just powerful. Like once you get that concept, then you start to realize that you can just call anything as an automation, and that flexibility is just super powerful. So in terms of what this looks like, I figured I'd just show an example of how I've done it with a client. And these guys were cool with me sharing the example. So so this is a company, they let us use an example from last meeting as well. It's called Moves the Needle. They do lean startup consulting. And this is an example of an automation that they started that needs to be optimized. This is not modular. So this would be an example of kind of a rat's nest of what it looks like. So we've got a split path here where it goes one way or the other. And so as you start to go down these paths, you get like increasing permutations of all these different possibilities, right? And in some of these places, you want to send the same thing, and so you've just got replication in multiple places, and it's just kind of a rat's nest. So this is an example of something that needs to be refactored and made more modular. So now let's show an example of what the good thing looks like. So this is, I put together a series of automations for them around they do these breakfast events, and so they needed help. They wanted like a pipeline, basically, a way to promote people and move them through the different stages and invite them to these events, and then all the way up to where they purchase a ticket. And so as you go here, you can see what we have is this single controller. I just called it a controller, and this is up to you. Like everything's open, so you have to name them properly, but the controller sequence that then just calls these other things, and these other things actually don't even, if you go and you look here, let me go, So send day 0 email. This is not even sending. This is invoking, or I'm sorry, yeah. So here's where the email gets sent. But this isn't just a send email step. There's actually some logic in here. So you can see how where this becomes really powerful. You can put logic in the call to sending an email that will then check and do some things like right here I'm doing, making sure we don't send to VIPs. If we send to Pepsi Cola, it's fine if we want to send to like a CMO, but let's not send to the CEO of Pepsi Cola. So we do some checking here. If they are in one of these kind of excluded positions, then we're going to peel them off, and instead of sending an email, we're going to actually create a task. But this function is basically saying, hey, contact this person at Pepsi, and then this is figuring out what it needs to do based on that. And it does it all. It's like a callable chunk of functionality that we can use anywhere. And then down here, so I like to build in like dupe checking so we don't accidentally hit people twice. And so I always, as soon as we send an email, you can see afterwards I say log email, breakfast email 1 sent. And then prior to that, I check for the existence of that tag. If it exists, then we're not going to send it. We're just going to cancel the automation. And that's saved us on multiple occasions where, for whatever reason, the person was re-entered into the sequence or whatnot. Because it has this error checking, it's not going to actually burden them with an errant email. So, I mean, at this point, I guess we're kind of, you guys know this because you definitely know it, and you know it through Hearts, and you're the engineer with ActiveCampaign. And so this is, I guess, more for anyone who's watching on the Hangout at this point. So for heuristics of when to do this, to me, the answer there is anytime where you might do it more than once, it belongs in being its own automation. I mean, other than that, if it's just one-off, what's great about ActiveCampaign is you can do it like fast and loose to start and just get something up there, and then go back and refactor it and pull it into its own automation later. So like day 1, if you're just making a linear email responder, you put the emails right in that first automation, and then as you kind of want to become more sophisticated, you go back and pull them out into separate automations. So in terms of how we do this, I guess I should preface this by saying, like, I never know if I'm doing the right thing, but I mean, this is what's worked for me. So I see this as having a couple conventions here to make it easier. So you want to have a naming convention that makes sense. Otherwise, you're just going to wind up with all these things in your automation, like in here, and it's just going to be a rat's nest, and you're going to get lost, and it'll become confusing. So I kind of came up with this methodology of whatever it pertains to first, and then I just do like colon, and then typically I number them. If they tend to go in a linear sequence, then I'll number them, and then just put a name so I remember like what this relates to. So in this case, for these guys, this breakfast event, they wanted it so we do this blast, and then we actually move people to a different deal stage based on whether they opened it, whether they clicked through, whether they responded to us, if we talked to them, et cetera, et cetera. And so I recommend just coming up with a standard naming convention so that they're categorized. And then also it has this labels feature here where you can basically filter on the labels. So that's really useful to know about. Just a gotcha, and something that we learned at the automation weekend is that these things by default, when you create them, will be red. In other words, they'll be inactive. And so if you're running things and you can't figure out why it's not running, it's most likely, like, check that first. Just go over here and say make active, because this is a gotcha that on multiple locations or multiple times, it's just we banged our heads against the wall, and then we go, oh yeah, it's off by default. So I respect why they do it, because it assumes like it's in test mode first. So I get it, but that's something just to be aware of. That is a newbie, this will frustrate the heck out of you. Okay, and then there's some like philosophical decisions in terms of where you put stuff. I find this to make most sense. So like the good example here is going back to this controller sequence. So I like to put the logic or just like a high-level, controller is what I think of it as. This is like the puppet master. It's doing is starting and stopping other stuff. And so in this case, it's very simple. We're just starting the day zero email, waiting. They have their delay timers collapsed, and I see that they're inactive, so they're probably not using this right now. But basically, you're triggering stuff, waiting, triggering more stuff, waiting, and all this does is start other things. But I mean, you could just as easily put the delay timers in the things that you invoke themselves. That's one way to do it. The good thing actually, so I guess it all depends on the situation. Like kicking off something where the delay timer is in it means then you can just stop that thing and go to the next thing and know that everything in that sequence is not going to happen. And this is where I guess like Infusionsoft, I wish I had an Infusionsoft account to pull up right now because I can show you the difference of how they do it is like that's something that's going to be a stumbling block for anyone who comes from Infusionsoft. It's just a totally different paradigm. So getting your head around this method, I guess, would be a good thing. That's a whole different topic, though. So, all right. So I'm assuming you guys don't have any questions on this. This is old hat for you guys, right?
Going through old stuff right now.
You're refactoring a bunch of
Well, because I realized that I could have several different entry points, and like you said, you can reduplicate an email instead of back copying and pasting over into a new email.
Yeah.
Just want to have it run over to that one.
Exactly. I wish the one thing, just total aside, I think we discussed it last time, but like the cascading template, I wish there was some way where you could take, like an email. There is no concept of by reference, it's by value with their emails. Like you can't just make one email template and then like change the header and it's going to ripple across everything. You have to go back through each email once it's created because it's all just like a separate copy. But I don't know, maybe you could pipe that feedback. I'm sure they're aware of it, but all right, so that's kind of what I got for the modular automations. Does anyone have anything to add or questions? This is gonna be a quick meeting. We got pizza on the way too, so I guess we're each gonna get a pizza here. All right, well, should we dig into the tagging taxonomy? That was kind of my next topic. Do you guys have a way that you like to do tagging, or how I can't remember how we did it with Hart. How do you organize tags? Do you have like a method?
Yeah, I have a Google sheet that keeps everything in check for me. So it's based on source of lead, form submitted, process of automation that they're currently in, whether they're a customer or not a customer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, just any type of marketing entry point. The only thing that I wish that they had was I think we talked about this last time, is where we could put a variable. So I can put in, if they submit on a form on XYZ date,
yep.
That date becomes the tag, so I know what day that they submitted that form.
Right.
I mean, I know we've got that, but through the the date that they initially signed, they became contact. But a lot of times they submit forms different over and over.
Right.
At different points, so it'd be nice to do something like that.
So can you do on that topic? Let me think here.
If I could take a custom field and have that become the tag, that would be a beautiful thing.
I can tell you that we're building a new form.
So he said you are with it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we're building a new form builder, a bunch of different new features and stuff, and that is one thing that we're doing is adding tags when you submit a form. So.
But will I be able to take
dynamic tags is what we're doing.
So like I could make today's date a tag, and then so it automatically generates each time the form. There's just a code or whatever that automatically generates the date.
Yeah, I mean we're still working on it, but this is great feedback to hear. I'm actually the one working on it.
I think I actually have that as a feedback in there somewhere about being able to submit either taking a custom field and making it a tag. That might be easiest.
That would be, yeah. I mean, to be able to pass like a hidden field and have that become even like a tag name, then that variable would be huge. So this is how we're handling it. I mean, I don't know if this is, again, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but this is our new customer welcome sequence for Pagely. And as a part of this, we set a field called became customer on, and then current time is just a variable. So we can at least always get at, yeah.
You have to see,
It's not a tag though, it's a field.
Right.
So
And so if they run through this sequence again, it's now going to put that new current time as
yeah,
that's the only drawback. Or that is the big drawback.
yeah. So here's how we're handling that. Not specifically with this problem, but with the UTM parameters. Let me find it here.
You mentioned last time you have a plugin that you created and had somebody for.
Yeah, well, I'll show that because that's pretty useful. But
I love a
yeah, no, it's open source. So here's, yeah, I mean, while we're mentioning it, so it's just GitHub. And it's this. So you can just download the zip file and then upload that into WordPress. And then I have a video here. If you just watch this screencast, it shows you how to configure it. And probably if you just Google this, it'll come up. Or not. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not selling it or anything, so I mean, hopefully it's useful for people, but I guess it's not easy to find. So the way that we're doing what you're talking about, which is essentially snapshotting the first value, because I want to know, we have the exact same issue with UTM parameters. So when people come in, they fill out a form, I want to capture their UTM parameters from that first form and then preserve that, because I want to know where do they first come from. But if they fill out like a survey or something after that, it's going to overwrite it. So the way that we did it was we have it snapshot basically. Anyone who has a value for UTM is gonna snapshot it to this list. And that is not working. That's good to know. Never mind. Pay no attention. So in theory, we have it detecting and writing it to that list, but apparently it's not working. So that's something I need to check on.
So if they did it through the API form, getting the API, they could do custom tags right there, which is how we do it with Harp. So we use the actual API to create the contacts instead of using the standard form.
Oh, Zapier. That's how you do it. Yeah, exactly.
We don't use Zapier. We just use the straight ActiveCampaign API. So instead of using the pre-built forms that ActiveCampaign gives us, we create our own forms and tie those forms values back to the API, and we create custom tags on the fly.
Okay.
So that would be possible, but depending on how many forms, the structure of the company, that could be a nightmare.
Gotcha. I mean, I just realized the way to do this, at least if you're using Gravity Forms the way that we're doing it, here's something that would work, and we are doing it.
So you're using it to, through the API, submit a form that way. You're just thinking forms on triggers, but start with most of the
Yep, and it's more or less the exact same, but we get a lot more control of what data we bring in and pass through and create, giving us a lot more variations of options.
So here's a non-code. Well, here, to your point.
Zapier is pretty close to non-code.
Yeah, this is a non-code way to accomplish. Do you use Zapier, or how do you get your stuff into?
I use their forms. I use the forms. I use them privately. So
Okay.
I don't use the API integration though.
Has Zapier gotten better to play nice between platforms and ActiveCampaign?
Platforms? What do you mean?
Well, I just remember like when we were working with Magento specifically,
Yeah.
we were really stuck with a one-time pass. Like when the customer was created, we got a hit, but we couldn't do it if they made another order or if they made a change. We were very limited with Zapier could do.
So that would be a limitation on the actions and the triggers for that ActiveCampaign. I mean, I use it daily. We update stuff and create new stuff. So maybe they've since added some.
I haven't looked into it.
Well, okay, but so this just maybe, I don't know why I didn't think of this, but here's how you do dynamic tags. If you're using Zapier, then you can just basically do it this way. So this is the value of that field being stuffed into a tag. And this kind of actually segues into what we're talking about with the tagging taxonomy. So the way that I do it, I'll just show you. We have, similarly as to you, we have a Google spreadsheet, and this is kind of like a registry of tags, with this being the high-level kind of breakdown. Like, I think of this as like the different dimensions on which we might want to segment people are here. And what we call clusters is basically personas. The motive for why they're seeking us out, objections if they voice any, and then I just have kind of this generic, what I call log, that captures anything they do on the site, whether they submit a form or even if we track it down to like, what's that? Oh yeah, yeah. Authority level, like are they a decision maker? Flag is something that I use if I want to like suppress marketing to this person. If they say, you know, don't ever contact me again, then obviously you want to apply certain flags. And then this is just where, like, this is an open thing. What, like, I think simultaneously the coolest thing about tags is that they're completely open. They're not categorical. They're not hierarchical. You can do anything with them, and yet that is simultaneously like a blessing and a curse, because this is what someone calling me right now. All right. It's a blessing and curse, because then you can get lost in like just it's flat. There is no concept of structure to it. So you have to come up with your own sensible structure. We are actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it already paid for? Hopefully.
It's already paid for.
All right, cool.
Where would you like it?
You can just put it right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the mansion in front.
Well,
We find that's a better idea.
Are you sorry?
yes. Yeah, for anyone on the Hangout, we just had pizza delivered, so that's what's happening right now. Cool.
So your tags like bicycle, colon, short, or
Yeah, so the way that I express these...
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I actually write it out. I mean, I suppose you could abbreviate it. I haven't found like a length limit yet that I've hit. So I guess for readability, maybe that's a good idea. But let me just find. I'll pull myself up. And I guess I should point out that anyone on the Hangout that has a question, I don't know how many people are actually watching right now. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and join and just ask your question. We'll happily answer. So here's just an example. Let me show you. See, these are some of the tags. Actually, I'm in the Moves the Needle account. Let me go to the Pagely account here. So there's that became customer on field that gets dynamically set. Automation, and here are some tags. And so this is how I do it. Like nest, I use parentheses. I just find it readability-wise that leads to a better, just like that nested style. So think of it like high level, next level, next level, and you can do this as far as you need to do it. So like we're gonna have, I just ran the editorial survey yesterday. And when that gets submitted, like they will do this quarterly, so that was the date on which it was submitted. But this is just a tag that I created for it, right? So this allows me, though, later on when I have 1,000 tags, I can just skim down the line and say, okay, where was that editorial group? There's probably going to be multiple added to it, but at least they'll be organized, so they're all lumped together. Yeah. So, and I think it makes a lot of sense to put this in a Google spreadsheet, whether you do it like this or have some other way to organize it. But I just find, having like a registry where you can keep everything straight and remember how you tag stuff, and it sounds like you agree, Matt, like that's just, it keeps your sanity. And then I guess the last thing to point out is the tag manager is pretty useful. If you go here and go manage tags, because otherwise, like, you can add tags ad hoc. As you're on a contact, you can just type freeform and create a new tag that way, and this can get out of control. But at least you have one place now, like, that has all the tags in your account. So you can just go in and delete and modify as you need to, and it shows you how many people are in the tag, and then you can click through that, and then it actually pulls up the contacts with that tag. So pretty useful. Good deal. Should we eat pizza? Does anyone on the Hangout have a question? Let me pull this back up here. Or ideas or anything to add? Nope. All right. Well, before we break, this is kind of a quicker meeting than usual, but let's. I have kind of like this running Evernote of. Let's see here. Yeah, ActiveCampaign. So this is kind of like a running list of stuff. I talked to Milosh quite a bit, and we had really long conversations. So if anyone wants this, this is linked in it's phxacug.com on our meetup. It's a link somewhere in there. There's a lot of good stuff in here if you want to learn. And then these are just some kind of proposed topics I came up with for future meetings. I think it'd be interesting to talk about that sharing feature, because I don't know if anyone else shares automations, but that's really powerful. Like, you can, if you're doing anything around trying to do like a niche product and sell it to other people, I just think adding that just unlocked a whole world of potential for ActiveCampaign. So I think that would be a good conversation to do. And then these are just some other ideas, but I'm open to any ideas you guys have. Oh, and then one other cool thing about that GitHub, actually, while I remember, so this thing with Gravity Forms will not only pass the UTM params through, but the latest version that we just published, we just added the ability to grab the originating HTTP refer and as well the request URI, and it cookies it. So however they first came in, like, how Google now doesn't let you see, and a lot of times they'll anonymize the inbound link. So this is a way actually to grab that, because it's not relying upon Google. It's using the HTTP refer variable, and it's turning it into a cookie and stuffing it in a hidden form field when you pass the form through to Zapier, and then Zapier gives it to whoever. It could be AC, it could be anyone, but it's super useful. So anyways, that's all I got. If there's no questions, I guess we'll break and we'll eat some pizza. Alrighty.